Time to pull up a chair. We've got another great story for you today in the rLounge. All right, you foodies, if you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen. Today in the rLounge, we hope you're hungry. Time for Best of Part 1. Up first, this is how the cookie crumbles. Am I the a-hole for calling my wife unreasonable for backing out of spending Christmas with my family after my mother rejected her cookie sample? Context. For every holiday, my mother would ask the woman in the family, my sisters, sister-in-law, and my wife, my female cousins, to send samples of the desserts they planned to bring to the celebration for testing and to see if the desserts could make it to the food menu. My wife has been complaining about my mother deliberately rejecting every dessert sample she sent. So many times, my mother has told her that she's being honest and keeping the guest's best interest at heart. Yet my wife still thought that my mother is deliberately excluding her since 2 of her dessert samples were rejected before. For this year's Christmas, my mother is doing the same thing, but this time, she told every woman who is participating to make a cookie sample and send it to her for testing. My wife took it as a challenge, and to be honest, she worked really hard to make a good sample and sent it to my mother days ago, and the results just came in yesterday. I came home from work and found my wife upset. I asked what's wrong, and she told me that my mother rejected the sample she sent and decided to exclude her baking from the food list menu for Christmas this year. I don't know what to say, but she then told me she was backing out of the invitation to attend Christmas with my family. I was stunned when I heard her make this statement. I tried to talk to her, but she said it was done. I called her unreasonable to decide to bail on the whole family over some cookie sample. That's just freaking crazy and quite unreasonable. We had a full-on argument about it, and she stated that my mother caused this, but I told her that my mother is pretty serious and careful about the food she offers to the guests since we are going to have relatives coming from all sides of the country. She told me to stop mentioning it. Later, I heard her cry despite telling her that her baking is amazing and people have preferences, that's all. Am I the a-hole for insisting that her decision was unreasonable? Info. If you're asking whose cookie sample made it to the menu, the answer is my sister and my 2 cousins. Info. Few things to put on here. My wife wasn't the only one whose sample was rejected. We have sister-in-laws, brother's wife, and my younger sisters. My mother did not force anyone to participate. It was up to whoever wanted to take part. This is just about the dessert, since my mother tends to be very careful in this category, but for other types of foods. Dishes, appetizers, salads, stuff like that is welcome, as she stated. Update. Great. So I just got off the phone with my brother, and he told me that his wife is doing the same thing as my wife, and that she has decided to back out of the invitation to spend Christmas with family as well. Turns out my wife must have told her about her decision, and she decided to follow her lead. My brother is pissed, saying my wife is encouraging his wife to do this. I see that the problem has just gotten bigger now. Who knows? My younger sister might join in and decide not to go as well. I don't know how this got out of control so quickly. I guess we'll try to have a discussion with my mother about this soon and see how it goes. Let's check in with the community, see what they're thinking. First up. So correct me if I'm wrong, but for years and years your mother has demanded that all the women, why not men too, in your family send in samples. For years and years your wife has tried her hardest to appease your mother, had pushed herself to the limit, and has been left completely and utterly demoralized each and every time by humiliating tradition enforced by the holiday tyrant. And, even worse, her shame was publicly put on display each and every year as other family members would no doubt notice that, once again, her food was not chosen. Finally, after producing something she was unbelievably proud of, she was once again left embarrassed and most likely deeply hurt, as she was deemed not good enough for yet another year. This is the straw that broke the camel's back, and she decides she has had enough of her humiliation and that she will not give her cruel mother-in-law the satisfaction of seeing her discomfort on such a big day. She makes a boundary that many would have made a long time prior. And her husband tells her she is unreasonable for setting up boundaries? Dude, come on, you know you're the a-hole. Someone else chimes in. You're the a-hole. I'd never in a million years bake samples to be approved. I'm showing up with my food. Eat it or not, I really don't care. Your mom is the a-hole and very, very weird. Another community member chimes in. You're the a-hole. The hell kind of tradition is this? This isn't Chopped or the Great British Bake Off, etc. This is a time for family. No wonder why your wife doesn't want to go. The next comment says, You're the a-hole. Your wife has been telling you for years that your mother has been rejecting her. She has gone out of her way to make something good, and your mother's pretentious Christmas menu leaves her out every year. And now you can't understand why she's devastated and doesn't want to go to Christmas with the people who make her feel so bad? It sounds like you just said, guess my mother just doesn't like your cooking. Deal with it. Instead of you dealing with your mother. What kind of Christmas requires samples to be sent for approval in advance for the menu? Your mother sounds controlling, and frankly, I wouldn't want to go to family Christmas there either. Next person's comment says, I bet if someone else from the family would send your wife's sample as theirs, they would get approved. This isn't about your wife's baking. She knows that. I know that. Everyone in Am I the A-hole knows that. Everyone in your family knows that. Your mother knows that. Even you know that. You're the a-hole. And one more, you're the a-hole. Why haven't you defended your wife's baking to your mom? You are choosing your mother over your own wife. Step up and tell your mom that you don't appreciate the constant insulting of your wife, and accept that if she doesn't feel comfortable going to Christmas at her house, that she has every right not to, and you should be supporting her decision. Your wife's reaction isn't about a cookie, OP. It's about feeling repeatedly left out by your mom and unsupported by you. It makes sense that she'd be hurt enough to skip the gathering this time around. Instead of siding with your mom's strict quality control, try standing up for your wife and addressing why this tradition is hurtful for her. What do you think? Is OP the a-hole? Up next, is the devil in the details? You be the judge. Am I the a-hole for being mad my boyfriend won't make noodles the way I like? Okay, this sounds dumb, but hear me out. I've always been a picky eater, especially when it comes to tomatoes. Ever since I was a kid, my dad would make me spaghetti different from the rest of the house. I like having an essence of the sauce flavor on the noodles, but not the overpowering flavor having noodles bathed in sauce creates. So, here's where it gets a bit odd. My dad would separate my spaghetti from the family's after putting the sauce on, and then would rinse the sauce off with the sink and strainer. I love my noodles like this, as it is a nice, subtle tomato vibe given to the mild spaghetti. My boyfriend, 26, has known about this since we first started dating. He always told me my food habits were cute. We have been dating for almost 3 years now and moved in together at the beginning of the pandemic so we could be in lockdown together. Ever since we moved in together, he insisted on taking charge of cooking and all cooking-related tasks, dishes, grocery shopping, etc., and he assigned me the role of cleaning the bulk of the apartment. We split other tasks pretty much 50-50 too. Everything was perfect and he always seemed to be making noodles the way I liked them when we had them. This was until last week when we last had spaghetti. We ate and everything was good, but afterwards he started teasing me, saying things like, "Really like your pasta with an essence of tomato," and "How was your tomato essence, babe?" Always using finger quotes around the word essence. After a few comments, I felt something was off and asked him if he had done anything differently with tonight's noodles than he usually does, and he started laughing. When he finally stopped laughing, he told me the whole truth while smirking. He said, "I didn't do anything different than I usually do. I've never been making it the way you have requested." Apparently, the entire time we've been living together, he's just been skipping the pasta sauce on my noodles entirely. He claimed that if I didn't notice for this long, then it shouldn't matter that he's making dinner in a way that is easier for him. I disagree entirely. I think the lying was a huge breach of trust, and so was the refusal to make dinner how I wanted. I have admittedly been acting passive-aggressively to him since, but he thinks he did nothing wrong, that I'm overreacting, and that I need to let it go. Am I the a-hole? Edit. My boyfriend found the post and is not happy. I'm debating pouring the sauce directly down the drain despite him. Edit 2. So a lot has happened since this morning. Y'all may be happy to hear we broke up. We had a huge blow-up fight since he found the post, which led me to breaking up with him. He did not like being called a predator, and I started to think y'all had a point about that, so I ended up breaking up with him. He attempted to plead with me a bit. My parents pay our rent, so he can't afford the place without me, but I wouldn't budge. Now some things I found out in the apartment. First, he's not a pharmacist like he always told me. He just works at CVS. Second, he has actually cheated on me multiple times with other girls that go to my college. And lastly, and worst of all, he has never actually been allergic to dogs and just doesn't like them. I think it's time we check in with the community. First reaction, everyone sucks here. You both sound dreadful, to be honest. The idea that putting pasta sauce on noodles and then rinsing it off would leave an essence of tomato flavor is objectively ridiculous, and more importantly, a really shockingly disgusting waste of pasta sauce. What your dad did was basically teach you to waste food while planting the idea in your head that you were tasting something that was all in your imagination. You can be pissed at your boyfriend, but the fact that you don't notice the difference in all this time is indisputable evidence that he was right. You weren't tasting any essence of anything to begin with. It was a placebo effect. You feel betrayed, but honestly, you should be more embarrassed that you were asking someone to constantly waste sauce by putting it on your noodles and then literally washing it off again. First of all, there is no rational way that you could have tasted it after that. Secondly, people, myself included, literally struggle to make sure that they can afford to put food on their table at all. and you're bloody well pouring it out the jar and then washing it down the sink on purpose. Be embarrassed. Your boyfriend is an a-hole, not for refusing to waste pasta sauce on you, honestly good for him, but for being a dick about it and mocking you. He sounds like a really nasty human being, and I can't speak for you, but I wouldn't date someone who spoke to me that way. He should just have pointed out the complete wastefulness of what you wanted from the outset. Though I suspect that you wouldn't have listened, honestly, if you actually believed that washed pasta noodles still retain an essence of sauce. I'm going to guess that you believe in homeopathy as well. Everybody sucks here, and y'all deserve each other. One more comment says this. Where's the problem here? If you never notice them, then why does he need to go through any extra effort to rinse your noodles? Also, why don't you just rinse your noodles? It's your food and your preference. I think you're just pissy because you're feeling dumb and you didn't know he wasn't putting sauce on them at all. If you never had a problem with it at all this time, then why does it matter and why should he put in extra effort? You're the a-hole for making a big deal of nothing. He isn't allergic to dogs, just apparently allergic to being honest about pretty much anything? I'm sorry, this situation really spiraled, OP. Your boyfriend not only ignored your food preferences, but also mocked you for it, implying he didn't care about the small details that matter to you. It's a relief you found this out now and can move forward with someone who actually respects your choices, quirks and all. You deserve someone who cares about the little things because they know they matter to you. Good call on moving on, OP. Is OP the a-hole? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Up next, a sister-in-law who comes with a hefty price tag. Am I the a-hole for bringing my sister-in-law's wallet to the restaurant when she conveniently always forgets it? My, female 28, sister-in-law, Amy, female 26, always comes to visit from out of town. She stays with us instead of a hotel and always wants to go to expensive restaurants. She always conveniently forgets her wallet or comes up with some excuse as to why she can't pay her share. She has implied that since I make much more money than her, I should be the one to pay. No, not my husband should pay, but me specifically. I do make a fair amount of money, but not so much that I can treat someone every time they come into town. Nonetheless, in the past, I have just paid the bill and asked her to pay me back. She never has. She had made a reservation at an extremely expensive restaurant last night, and before we left, I made it clear that I wouldn't be paying for her bill. This is where I might be the a-hole, and I'll admit I got this move straight from an episode of 2.5 Men. As we were leaving, her and my husband went to the car. I pretended I forgot something and went back inside. I found her wallet sitting right on top of her suitcase. I put it in my purse, and we went to the restaurant. When we were done eating, I asked for separate bills. She said, no, we need one bill, because she forgot her wallet again. I reached in my purse and said, this wallet? She was extremely furious. She said that I should not have touched or grabbed her wallet. So am I the a-hole for taking her wallet and bringing it to the restaurant? Edit. Wow. Thanks for the awards. Jeez, so many comments that I can't keep up. But thank you to everyone who had something to say. Edit 2. Amy just called me. She saw this post and she yelled at me for bad-mouthing her on the internet. Honestly, I don't care. Amy, hopefully reading all these comments is a wake-up call for you. Now let's take a look at a couple of comments. The first one. Not the a-hole, but you totally should have flipped the switch, left your wallet at home, only brought your license, so she had to cover the whole bill, then never taken her out to a restaurant again. The next comment says, she made the reservation and invited you. Etiquette says she would be responsible for 100% of that bill, but not the a-hole. And one more comment. Not the a-hole. Why do you and your husband still allow her to stay with you, or choose expensive restaurants, or even go out with her? I think you need to talk to your husband about this behavior. I'm very curious as to why he hasn't stepped in and shut this down and wonder if he is the one encouraging her to do this behind your back. Update. Some answers to common questions. Why does dear husband keep letting Amy in? Without getting into too much detail, he has always been expected to pay for nice things for the females in his family. He has also been kind of scammed out of a large sums of money by his family. That's slowly been shut down over time, and we're working on shutting down this dinner outings thing. He allows this because he feels bad that they don't have a lot of money. It's sad, but that's how his family got along for a very long time, being dishonest about anything and everything to get their hands on some extra money or extra financial help. I could write a book on some of the things I've seen them do over the years. It hasn't been easy to show these people how wrong this is. He has talked to Amy about being cheap, has had come to Jesus talks with her, and genuinely has always felt that each next time would be different. We've been in therapy addressing this, and he's learned to set boundaries. This restaurant thing is a boundary that he didn't yet set. It's hard to set all boundaries all at once when you actually had no clue what boundaries were and have had no boundaries for years. Does he pay too? We are married. My money is his money. When I mentioned Amy specifies I should pay, I meant more that she specifies since I make good money, we as a whole shouldn't be cheap. What was the point if you ended up paying? I knew Amy wasn't going to pay. She always finds a way not to pay. I went to the restaurant fully expecting to foot the bill. I did this because I saw it on a show and thought it would be funny to do in real life, to be completely honest. The point wasn't really to get her to pay. It was more to show her that the forgot my wallet excuse was getting old. Is Amy banned from visiting? Fortunately, this post turned out to be a good thing. Dear husband has always had it in his head that Amy is a good person and has her reason for being sneaky and cheap, like I mentioned above. In his head, it's not her fault she is the way she is. It's the circumstances of her upbringing that caused her to make bad decisions. But seeing Amy's reply to my post and people's responses to Amy has really changed his thinking. That's the first time Amy has outright admitted that she's purposely taking advantage. Reading some of the other comments has also been eye-opening for him. So, dear husband has told Amy that she's not welcome here, at least not for a long while. And the judgment. Thanks for lots of not the a-holes, but I liked one commenter's, sometimes it's okay to be that, but. I think that's exactly what it was here. It was a butt move, but also outweighed by Amy's buttholery. Thanks again. This is the end of this. I won't be giving any more updates or comments. One comment was posted, and it was the sister's response. Edited to take out the info I think OP didn't want here. This is Amy. My friend told me they saw this post and everyone is saying I'm a leech. The thing my sister-in-law did not tell you all is she has no problem paying for her own sisters, and she always singles me out and expects me to always pay. She takes her sisters to restaurants and never makes them pay. Ever since she is with my brother is so cheap. He used to always help me and my mom because we don't have a lot of money, and he stopped doing that ever since he's with her. He used to always help me and my mom with our bus tickets to come visit to see him and to visit my niece. Now he always says he doesn't have money. So maybe I am wrong for always forgetting my wallet, but it's not fair that she always pays for her own sisters, but not for me. She would never take her sister's wallet and embarrass her at a restaurant trying to make her pay. Taking my wallet and sneaking it to the restaurant when she can afford to pay for things is so messed up. In our culture, the older sibling always pays. She is so cheap. Why can't she just treat me? Why does she only have to treat her sister and make me look like a bad person when I expect the same treatment as her sisters, and she has so much money to waste? I hope people don't think I'm an a-hole when they learn more about the situation. The OP actually responded to this. Wow, I can't. My sisters are in a university working their butts off to pay their own tuition, so yes, I treat them occasionally. They don't come to my house expecting me to pay for everything. How much money I earn is not anyone's dang business. How I spend my money is not anyone's dang business. My husband is cheap now because we have a mortgage to pay and a child to take care of. I also didn't have much money to my name at a time in my life. I never mooched off of anyone or expected anyone to pay my way, not even my own parents. You figure that out on your own. Get the hell off of my post and go complain to someone who cares. Your sister-in-law has taken advantage of your kindness by repeatedly forgetting her wallet, and instead of taking responsibility for her actions, she's made you out to be the bad guy. The move with the wallet was clever, OP. They called her out without actually calling her out. And then there's Amy's response, which highlights a big entitlement problem. She clearly is not interested in a balanced relationship, but rather feels entitled to your resources because of your financial success and the way you handle your money. Family or not, you have every right to set boundaries. Good for you, OP. People, take notes. What do you think? Next up, sharing is caring, right? Am I the a-hole for feeding my dog table scraps from a dinner my boyfriend made for us? I, 24 female, have been dating Jay, 28 male, for 4 months. He is handsome, smart, funny, well-educated, has an awesome job, and is a sweetheart. Sunday, he had a whole day planned for us. We were going to walk a nature trail and then go back to his place for dinner he was making. I was so excited because it was going to be the first time I'd be at his house. Since we were hiking, he said I could bring my dog Shelby with us. He made us a roast and some vegetables for dinner. I finished my plate before Jay did and took it to the kitchen. There was still about half the roast left and it was close to Shelby's dinner time, so I took half of roast and some still raw vegetables from the fridge to put it on a plate for Shelby. I was carrying the plate to the back door with Shelby to feed her outside, and Jay asked me what I was doing. I told him feeding Shelby. Jay said something like, "Well, that's not dog food." Jay knows I mainly feed Shelby a raw diet. I opened the door to put the plate down for Shelby, and Jay got up, took the plate away from her, went to the kitchen and came back with it wrapped up in tinfoil and told me to leave. His excuse was that he made dinner for me and him, not me, him, and my dog, and that I should have asked before I helped myself since he would have used his leftovers. I did leave, but not before telling him that he made the meal for us so I could do with some of it as I pleased, and he knew dang well how I feed Shelby. I tried talking to my friend about it later that night, but she said Jay was right to be upset, but this friend has never really approved of how I treat my own dog, so I feel like she was probably a bit biased and the wrong person to ask. Am I the a-hole for just feeding my dog like I normally would? Clarification. She does not get restaurant food daily. I eat out maybe 4 times a month. If what I eat is dog safe or the restaurant makes food for dogs on request, then I bring some home for her. Shelby's daily meals are a bit of brown rice, raw vegetables, and ground chicken hearts and beef livers. The hearts and livers are boiled just enough to kill the bacteria, and that is all with the approval of Shelby's vet. I asked Jay how he prepared the roast so I could know if it was safe to give to her. That's also why I got her fresh, unused vegetables from the fridge. Update. I accept that I am the a-hole for what I said and did to Jay. Some of these responses were harsh, but I see now how and why I was entitled. Thanks to people that responded to the actual issue. Others going on about her diet. Thanks for the concern, but I came here to ask about Jay, not get into a debate about dog foods. Shelby's been on her diet for 6 years and is a healthy and active puppo. That's all I and my vet need to know. As for Jay, I apologized to him and he did accept my apology, but he broke it off. He said it was the last straw for him over me doing things without asking first. He has talked to me about taking things off his plate or his drink without asking before. I've tried to do better, but keep slipping up. I didn't realize I was that bad about it, so I'm going to work on myself for the next guy. For people that said not going to his place for 4 months was a red flag, that was my decision that he respected. I don't want to go to someone's house or them know where I live the first few months of dating and getting to know each other. Let's see what the community had to say. First up, yes, you're the a-hole. Your, now, ex-boyfriend made a special meal for you. You took a large hunk of that special meal and gave it to your dog. Not only that, but you did so knowing it would upset your, now ex-boyfriend. You should have brought dog food to feed Shelby. You should not have fed Shelby with people food, and you should particularly not have fed your dog with the special dinner your, now ex-boyfriend prepared for you. It is wholly irrelevant that Jay knows you mainly feed Shelby a raw diet. Edit. Also, the title of your post is misleading. Table scraps are what's left over on your plate after you finish eating. They are not a quarter of the roast your boyfriend prepared. The next comment says, you're the a-hole. A quarter of a roast is not table scraps. How is the fact that you mainly feed your dog a raw diet at all relevant? Also wholly an entitlement Batman at, you made the dinner for me so I can do with it as I please. By that logic, it would have been perfectly acceptable to flush it down the toilet. Someone else chimes in, you're the a-hole. You feed your dog a raw diet. You should absolutely know better that most seasonings and vegetables involved in a roast, like onions and garlic, are potentially fatal for a dog to ingest. You are also ridiculously entitled to do so without asking. Where are your manners? On the floor with the dog? And one more comment. Yeah, I work in a vet med, and I saw roast and immediately knew where this was going. But honestly, most people, not all, that feed raw have absolutely no idea what they're doing, and their pets are not healthy. It's a fad thing, and they just throw whatever they think is good into a bowl for them. No accounting for vitamins and nutrients to create balanced meals. I had to explain to a woman that her dog having diarrhea its whole life is not normal, and it's because she exclusively feeds it tacos, literally seasoned, but raw, ground beef, lettuce, tomatoes, and cheese. He is also pretty close to having pancreatitis. You were definitely out of line here. Scraps, eh? Jay went out of his way to plan a nice day for you, including a special meal, and it wasn't fair to take a significant portion of it for your dog, especially without asking. It seems like Jay had already been feeling frustrated about your tendency to cross the line, so this may have been the last straw in a pattern he struggled with. Is the OP in the wrong here? Why or why not? Next up, it's not just the baked goods that end up getting burned. Am I the a-hole for changing the door locks back after my wife changed them? I, 30 male, have a beautiful wife who loves to serve others. We bought a home down the street from my family. I have a sweet sister, 17, who likes to crash at our house with her friends. My wife normally is pretty easygoing until recently. My sister's friends have been leaving messes, mostly towels on the floor after using our pool. My wife got upset picking up after them every day. I have asked my sister to make sure that the house is clean after they leave, and it has been better. My wife also complained that some of her perfumes and clothes and personal items have gone missing. My sister said it's not her. I believe my sister. I just don't see her doing that. I told my wife, and we agreed to just replace them. Last week, my wife made a couple of pans of cinnamon rolls from scratch. One pan was for us, the second pan was for a coworker's family who was experiencing a tragedy. My wife went to the gym. I went to work and my sister and her friends came by. The one pan wasn't enough for her and her friends. They wanted the second pan of cinnamon rolls, and my sister texted my wife asking if they could eat them. My wife said no. They ate them anyway. My wife, upset, went and bought new locks. When I came home, my wife handed me a new key and told me that she didn't want anyone else to have a key to our house. I tried to calm her down and tell her that I would just go replace the eaten cinnamon rolls with store-bought ones. My wife decided this was her hill to die on and said no. My sister lost the privilege to come when we are not home. Replacing stolen items wasn't good enough anymore. My mom called and asked if my sister could use the pool as a back-to-school party. I was under the impression my mom would be there. I said yes. My mom was at work and our schedules clashed. The earliest solution was for me to change the locks back so they could come into the house. My mom didn't come with my sister. When my wife got home after the party, it was a mess. She sent me photos. She called me the a-hole for changing locks without talking to her about it. Keep in mind, she did too. Then told me I broke her trust. She wasn't safe in her home because she keeps getting robbed and I've refused to put an end to it. Her home because she keeps getting... Then my wife let me know she was staying with a friend for a while. Am I the a-hole here? I feel like I have tried to right any wrongs that have happened between my wife and my sister. Let's get a couple quick comments. First up, you're the a-hole. Why don't you clean after your sister? Next person says, you're the a-hole. What the F is wrong with you? Your freeloading young sister and her crew go into your home and eat food, leave towels on the floor and whatnot. And you're okay with that because it's not you who's doing all the cleaning but your wife? Then, when your wife hasn't had enough and changes the locks so that the freeloading users can't get into your home anymore, she makes the correct decision by changing the locks in the home, and you, the a-hole, changes it back so your younger brat sister can continue her buttholery. Wow, you are truly something else. You better grow up fast and start choosing your wife over your a-hole family, or you're going to lose the best thing that ever happened to you. Another commenter chimes in, easy, you're the a-hole. Your wife tried. Even as her clothes got stolen, house was left a mess, making more work for her and the icing on the cake. Those cinnamon rolls. Those thoughtfully made from scratch rolls for a grieving coworker and some of her family. Made with love and care, no doubt. Only to be scarfed down by careless teenagers using your home for a pool and free stuff. Your sister could have also set stronger rules to her friends, or just stop using the pool. Also, why was your sister asking your mom to ask you for the pool? Why not straight to you or her sister-in-law? Why did you assume your mother would be present when she hasn't been any other time with these minors in your home and pool? The liability also boggles my mind. Your wife sounds like a saint. The next comment goes like this. You're the a-hole. 1. Your sweet sister abuses your wife. 2. Your sister steals from your parent. 3. Your sister invites friends around who make a mess and make her feel unsafe. 4. Your wife is so scared she changed the locks to keep your sister and her bad company out. 5. You changed the locks back so your sister and her friends could continue to abuse your wife. Sister and her bad company out. You tried to make things right only in your mind, other than extracting empty promises from your sister and mother. What did you do? 7. Your wife has left you because she doesn't feel safe in her own house or respected by her husband. And instead of solving these problems, you're begging people here to tell you you're not the a-hole. Well, you are totally the a-hole. Someone else had this to say. You're the a-hole. Your sister is trashing your house and allowing her friends to steal food and personal items. You're completely disregarding your wife's feelings on this, and her feelings are perfectly reasonable, and she's been very patient. You haven't righted the wrongs that have happened. You've replaced things that have been stolen, but that can't heal the feeling of being disrespected and the lack of safety in one's own home. Replacing homemade cinnamon rolls with store-bought is similar. Those were probably way higher quality than store-bought, and your sister was specifically told not to do this and did it anyway. Your sister and her friends are showing zero respect for your wife or the home, and you should not be steamrolling your wife about this. Your wife should be your top priority here, as this is her home too. Update. Sorry I haven't been able to reply this past couple of hours. I have been busy. I talked to my mom again and let her know my sister isn't allowed over without me home. I asked a friend's wife, who is a maid, to come deep clean our home. So when my wife comes home, it's clean. The last thing is my mom asked me to help cover my sister's cheer. She is on track for a scholarship. I told my mom I would pay half if my wife's things were returned. If not, the money was going to replace the stolen items. Also, my sister was invited to homecoming. She wanted me to buy a dress. I told her no, for not following our home rules, and the money I saved for the dress is going to pay for the maid. I did replace the locks again. I also am planning a romantic dinner I will make and clean up. I heard a lot about the cinnamon rolls. Someone on here gave me the idea to make them. I am for a dessert. Update. My sister and my mom left a few minutes ago. My sister had a bag of my wife's things. More than I thought was gone. Most items are in poor shape. The big thing is, she had my wife's grandmother's ring I thought was in the safe. I had no idea it was gone. My sister said that she found it on my wife's nightstand during the party. She forgot she had it on when she left her home. The ring isn't valuable, it's just sentimental. I told my mom who the ring had belonged to. My mom lost it. My sister is now grounded. Last update tonight. My wife is coming home. I am staying at a friend's house. Until we can work some of this out. I already stated it, but I did put the locks back on that my wife bought. My family doesn't have that key. Early morning update. My mom called my wife last night and asked what my sister can do to fix or replace the damaged items. My wife said, have her meet me every morning at 5 a.m. I decided to tag along and see what my wife had planned, trying to support her in whatever punishment she decides to do. You know, the cinnamon rolls. My wife's coworker's 4-year-old is in the final stages of cancer. My wife's plan is for my sister and her to prepare breakfast, get their other kids up and ready for the day, start laundry, basic cleanup, so her coworker and his wife can spend as much time as he can with the sick child before work. My sister was silent the whole time coming back home. I can tell it really hit her that her life isn't as hard, even being grounded. Last and final post. My wife has given me a second chance as long as I follow her list of rules. For a while, no family at our home. No family borrowing our things. No one is allowed a key. I help with the chores around the house, including cooking meals. Last, my wife is okay with me seeing my sister, but asked that we all go to counseling to understand why my sister is targeting her. My wife said all of this has been really hard, and she doesn't want to cause more issues, but she just doesn't trust my sister and can't have her using our things. You're definitely the one in the wrong here. Your wife has been incredibly patient and supportive, but your actions have shown her time and again that her boundaries and sense of safety come second to your sister's whims. Your sister has repeatedly disrespected your home and violated your wife's trust by taking personal items, one of which turned out to be a deeply sentimental family ring. And even when your wife tried to set boundaries by changing the locks, you went behind her back to undo her decision. Time to pay the piper, OP. Thoughts? Thank you for joining us today in the rLounge. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. Until next time.